Your teenage memories might decide your vote. Hey, race a fun experiment. Think back to when you were 18. Who was president? Did you like him? Was he popular with other young people? Now, think about your current views and those of your peers. You might have noticed, your generation's early political experiences left a lasting imprint. This isn't coincidental. Data supports the notion that political memory from each generation's formative years often stays with them their entire lives. Consider, for example, Ronald Reagan was generally popular in the 1980s, and those who turned 18 during his presidency disproportionately vote for the GOP today. By contrast, voters in their 30s now, who came of age as George W. Bush's presidency ran aground and Barack Obama emerged from the wreckage, tend to prefer Democrats. The effect of political memory is complex. Different demographic groups experience the same events differently. But if we break the data down, the effect is clear. The youngest group, shaped by Obama's unique appeal to their generation as well as Donald Trump's unpopularity, backed Joe Biden. Those 30 to 49 split almost evenly, even though conventional wisdom holds that they are supposed to become conservative as they buy houses in the suburbs and start families. Bad memories of Bush's presidency seem to have held them close to the center. In contrast, many voters in their 50s and early 60s recall Reagan fondly and voted nearly 2-1 for Trump. Yet the oldest group, again, whose age should make them the most conservative, were apparently moderated by memories of Watergate, Lyndon B. Johnson and John F. Kennedy. This generational pattern isn't just a quirk of the 2020 election. In the past 4 presidential elections, white voters who turned 18 between 1961 and 1976, well, call them Generation Kennedy, were slightly more liberal than Generation Reagan, those who turned 18 between 1977 and 1992, despite being 15 years older. And the youngest set of voters in those elections, who watched the economy soar under Bill Clinton, crash under Bush and then recover under Obama, has been consistently liberal. This data comes from Democratic firm Catalyst, which has been tracking these trends. Yair Gitza, the company's chief scientist, tells me his team has used complex statistical analysis to determine at which age voters tend to be most malleable. The events that happen when someone is in or around their teenage years and early 20s has a lifelong impact on their political preferences, he explains. For example, I was born in 1982. So when I was in my teens and 20s, Bill Clinton was very popular, followed by George W. Bush being very unpopular. And then a little later than that, Obama wasn't universally popular, but he was among my age group. So, people my age will be, on average, slightly more democratic. That's great news for Democrats. Millennial and Gen Z voters are a growing voting bloc. Some will likely become more conservative with age, but many, like the young Democrats of the Great Depression, may never feel fully comfortable trusting a Republican. And Democrats will benefit from their loyalty. But that doesn't mean Republicans are doomed among this age cohort. While white millennials have trended left, the GOP is showing signs of life among young Black and Latino voters. Debate still rages as to why young Black voters have stepped to the right. Some credit the GOP's message of upward economic mobility. Others point to Obama's exit from the political stage. As the former president drifts further from relevance, young and conservative Black voters might feel freer to vote for the GOP. Regardless of the reason, the margin has shifted, and the GOP might have found a foothold with the next generation of Black voters. The trend looks even better for Republicans among Latino voters, some of whom were impressed by Trump's economic record and think Democrats have moved too far to the left on social issues, such as police reform. It's difficult to draw a clear line between Latino voters' age and their political memories, especially since some have spent their youth in other countries. But Republicans, who often liken Democrats to socialist autocrats in Central and South America, have made gains with every Latino age group. Republicans could stay competitive by building on these improvements. If they can find new Latino, Black, Asian and approaching middle-age white converts and make short-term gains each election cycle, they could outrun the generational trends that favor Democrats. But the GOP's best long-term strategy isn't to improvise its way to victory, one election at a time. It's to govern well. Gitz's data shows that successful presidents, such as Reagan and Obama, left a lasting imprint on the young voters who lived through their presidencies. If they can't live up to those examples, they might cede yet another wave of young voters to Democrats. Your teenage memories might decide your vote. Hey, race a fun experiment. Think back to when you were 18. Who was president? Did you like him? Was he popular with other young people? Now, think about your current views and those of your peers. You might have noticed, your generation's early political experiences left a lasting imprint. This isn't coincidental, data supports the notion. Trump's indictment is tragic for our country but an imperative for justice. From the moment Donald Trump left office under the cloud of an insurrection he inspired, two questions troubled the American conscience. The first, asked urgently by Trump's opponents, was rooted in the imperative of equal justice. Shouldn't a former president be held accountable for breaking the law, as any other citizen would be? The second, popular among Trump's supporters but also resonant with some of his historically minded critics, how could the Justice Department of a new administration move to indict President Biden's 2020 opponent, and potential future challenger, without damaging democratic norms? Down the path of resisting charges against presidential criminality lay lawlessness, the death of accountability and a culture of impunity for the powerful. But, ask the doubters, should we not worry that bringing a political opponent to justice might encourage a cycle of recrimination, an ongoing tit-for-tat use of prosecutorial power against political adversaries? On Thursday, accountability overcame fear. In bringing the first federal charges ever against a former president, the Justice Department made the less political decision. Special counsel Jack Smith focused solely on the facts of the documents case, on the law and on what Trump allegedly did. "We have one set of laws in this country," Smith said at a brief Friday news conference, "and they apply to everyone." In a devastating 49-page indictment, Smith detailed Trump's deceptions, carelessness and willingness to save his hide by destroying or hiding documents, even from his attorneys, in, among other places, a shower in a bathroom. It was the correct, sober and courageous call, but Trump's apologists immediately cried foul. Never mind that many who denounced the Justice Department had reveled in cries of "lock her up" when Hillary Clinton was Trump's 2016 opponent. Never mind that Trump himself had argued that Clinton's mishandling of government documents disqualifies her from the presidency and pledged to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. In an outrageous but unsurprising declaration, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy declared it unconscionable for a president to indict the leading candidate opposing him. No. Biden did not bring this indictment. A grand jury did. In one of many ironies of the case, Attorney General Merrick